Hi everyone, welcome to our first episode of the Design Dialogues podcast for 2025. I hope you have had a wonderful break and are coming back to the year refreshed and recharged. For our first episode back, I am so excited to be bringing you the recording of our live event up in Brisbane that we had at the end of last year. It is such a great chat with 4 amazing designers, and I know you are going to get so much out of it like we all did on the night. It was a great event at the Satara showroom in Brisbane. We had Eliza Smoothey, Sara and Laure from Residence Studio, and Sara Cornish stepping in for Donna Guyler. I hope you enjoy the episode, and I am really looking forward to having you as part of the Design Dialogues for 2025.
Hi, I'm Beth, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5, and I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our Design Dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast.
Firstly, I'd like to say thank you all for coming. It's just from the little podcast that I started about 18 months ago, it's amazing to see you all here. I'd like to thank Andrew and Shane and the whole Satara team. This is the second event we've done with them, and one of the things that Shane and Andrew and I were talking about before is so often it's the relationships that you have that make a business successful. The relationships with your clients, the relationships with your suppliers. And it's evenings like this where we get to deepen those relationships with our suppliers. So thank you, Andrew and Shane, for supporting us and our businesses and our industry by hosting us tonight. So thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Beth Beesky. I am, for my sins, an interior designer of 15 years. I've worked for Blaney North, Greg Natali as his general manager, managing his interdisciplinary team of 15, and have had my own business for 6.5 years. From my experience, one of the things that I knew to be true was that a designer can be great at design, but can be really bad at the business side of a studio. And if you're really bad at a business side of a studio, you're not going to love your design. You're going to feel burnt out and frustrated, and you're just not going to be happy. So that led me to start a software, More Time to Design, which is a tool to help you build better businesses that are profitable and businesses that you love. From that, we've also got now a whole heap of other things that have kind of come along. We've got courses and mentoring, helping designers, whether they're little baby designers that are just starting out, designers who are in a growth phase of their studio and really wanting to take it to the next stage, and designers that have been in the industry and had their studios for 20, 25 years and are wondering, what is the next step for me? Working with designers every week in their businesses is a real privilege, and it's a real joy to see these designers love what they do, give themselves time back to do the bit that we all got into the industry to do, design. Of course, the other part of the More Time to Design story is the Design Dialogues podcast. Now, I am, if I'm being polite, a naturally curious person. If I'm not being polite, I'm just nosy. I love hearing people's stories. So getting to hear designers' stories every week is my favourite thing to do. And tonight, you guys get to join me in hearing some more designers' stories. So join me in welcoming our panel this evening. So we've got Eliza, Laure and Tara from Resident Studio, and a very, very warm welcome to Sara, who is stepping in for Donna Guyler, who unfortunately couldn't be with us this evening for personal reasons. So please welcome our panel. Put the glasses on, can't read the questions. Okay, so now the first question is for anyone who's listened to the podcast, you'll know I always start by asking, what can you see out your window? That doesn't quite work this evening. So my question for all of you, and I'll start with Eliza, is what is the current view from one of your projects?
So the current view from one of my projects, it's actually just down the road here in New Farm. It's across the road from the Merthyr Bowls Club. So it looks out over the Bowls Club and out to the river, which is actually a really pretty view. It's level 1, but they got a really nice view. So very nice in Brisbane.
Laure and Tara, maybe you can give me two views.
So on the project that I'm working on at the moment, it's a view of Moffat Beach, so Sunshine Coast, and it's a ground floor apartment that is on one of the cliffs and it has a view right down the beach, so quite beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Tara?
Beforehand so that you can fix any issues before you actually go out to site.
So do you have all of your furniture deliveries come into a central warehouse prior to the install day?
Yes, yeah. We QC everything. We get it all. Where we have it delivered has a reception which accepts the delivery for us, so we don't actually need to be there 24/7. And yeah, everything comes to a central point.
Yeah, right. Okay, so let's talk about the practical part of that. Sounds great in theory, and I know a lot of designers are actually like, oh, that sounds awesome. How do you manage the costs of that with the client?
So when we put together a project, we will always have margins on the furniture, and so if a client ever questions that, we do say, well, this is our time to quality check those items, so we make sure we've got enough time that we pre-estimate beforehand to make sure that covers our time to go out there if there are any issues as well, because there is a lot of back and forth with that supplier. If it's even one chair from one supplier and another one from another supplier, it's all that time that you've got to cost in. So you always want to kind of make sure that you're putting in that extra bit of juice for yourself to cover, because the reality is it's all very manual and there are going to be issues. Like, it's never going to be 100% seamless. So, yeah.
Yeah, really interesting.
Sorry.
Eliza, how about you?
My process is pretty much the same, just smaller scale. So I get everything delivered to the clients' homes, and then we just organise install day, styling day, make sure everything's set up, like you said. I wish Donna was here to answer that, because I don't have aprons or anything as fancy as that.
The aprons were like, they were coordinated, they were really luxurious looking aprons. Like, I reckon I'm pretty sure there was like a toolkit that was branded. It was real next level install kit. And I'm like, I feel like I need her as a follow-up guest on the podcast just to really dissect this install. Because, I mean, it was a multi-day install. It was a huge project. And to be honest, like, I've worked on installs like that. If you aren't organised, then it's going to go pear-shaped. But I was just, there was just something about the aprons that I was like, wow, that's next level.
That is something that I always make sure I have, is like my own toolkit going out to a client's home. So having like box cutters, scissors, rubbish bags, cloths, things like that, so you never have to ask them where things are, so you can just do everything yourself. So, yeah.
Sara?
I haven't actually had to deal with this situation yet, so I am, intrigued. I'd love to be a fly on the wall to Donna's experience.
And so I find this really interesting. You're like a baby designer. I love them. What are some of the things that you maybe worry about in terms of, like, gosh, like, you see these designers, you hear like Tara and Laure talk about this, and like, you guys obviously work on big scale stuff kind of thing. It's not always possible to have these big grand reveal days that, you know, like, especially like on American shows, they like go on a holiday and they come back and it's like, wow, that would be awesome. There's something quite having a client hover while you're trying to install, and like, it's halfway through the process and you're like, no, just trust the process. Like, it might not look great right now, but we're still missing a whole heap of stuff. Like, what are some of the things that you go, okay, I hope I've got those things in place?
It's sort of a little bit hard for me to answer because I haven't been in that situation. You don't know what you don't know, I think, as well. So, I know even for simple, I had a delivery today for a client and we went through all the communication. It was this client wasn't able to take any of the furniture inside the property. She had some mobility issues, so I organised with the supplier through several emails to get the delivery drivers, which isn't their normal process, but on this occasion they were supposed to take the furniture upstairs into the bedrooms. And despite 5 or 6 emails clarifying all this, assuring the client that everything would be okay, sure enough, the driver said, "This hasn't been communicated to me. I'm not allowed inside the front door." So, just before driving down here this evening, I had to, make a few phone calls and sort that situation out, and it did get resolved. But I guess you can never prepare for these sorts of things.
You really
no matter how
can't.
much you try.
But I suppose as well that brings us back to what we were talking about before. It's relationships. So kind of like now you kind of go, okay, well now I need to develop a relationship with someone who I can trust and I can communicate with. So I mean, it's amazing how many times these questions come back to the strength of our relationships. So we're in the closing stages of 2024, and so often designers, like everyone, but particularly designers, are feeling very burnt out. Who here has a project that is the client's hoping to be in for Christmas Day? How are we all feeling? Yeah, it's not fun. I don't know why the 25th of December is such a magical day. The world doesn't end, it keeps going. So what are some of the things that you do as we draw to the end of the year to reflect on the year and think that went well, that didn't go well, let's not do that again in 2025, or that did work really well? Do you have an end-of-year review process that you go through? Sara, I'm going to start with you.
I don't have a thought-out process at this stage, but I can reflect on my first year of business this year, which was fantastic, and I've really, really enjoyed it, and I've loved, working hard, and I had that new beginner energy, but that's dissipating quickly at the end of this year. So I think, I will take time next year to recharge and not necessarily work on the weekends just because I've got a few hours spare. It might take a bit more rest time because then hopefully I will be more productive in the long run anyway.
Is there anything that comes to mind that you would say that was a win, that was a big win?
From this year? I think just grasping the opportunities that have been presented. Even I think we've had a discussion in here already about imposter syndrome, and I think listening to the people that you respect in the industry that are giving you compliments and telling you to do, keep going the way you're going, and that's been a really big win for me tonight as an example. That's been, just trusting the people that you respect in the industry has been, really fulfilling this year.
Tara and Laure, how about you guys? Do you have a end-of-year review?
We have a start of year review where we kind of go through all of our goals for that year, what we'd like to achieve, and then creative wise, if we're kind of getting a bit burnt out, we do supplier days locally, and then we go to Sydney and Melbourne. Obviously Brisbane's a little bit behind Sydney and Melbourne.
Don't say that. Don't say that. I have to say, walking around today,
it's getting better.
I mean, certain parts I've this is interesting, but Sydney's not that. It's good, but it's not that good.
But I think some of the suppliers we use only have showrooms in Sydney and Melbourne, which is why we go there frequently to see and test the furniture. Yeah.
I also think it's just somewhere fresh to look as well, because you're coming here in Brisbane, you're seeing the same suppliers. It can start to get you're seeing the same thing every single day. So going somewhere where you're in a change of environment gets you to be more creative. And I think that's really important. And if not, we notoriously like nice lunches. So we might book in a nice lunch somewhere, or even if it's a casual lunch, but just something where we can, it's just something to get us excited and to be able to just put work aside for a second and just enjoy time together as well, because we don't get to do that very often because we're always...
It's a tax write-off.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah, we won't tell our accountant that, but so it's just, you just got to have something that you look forward to, I think is the main thing. But we do, when we go through, we do goals like once a year, and it's like a 6-month goal, a year, 5 years and 10 years. And so we review that every year and see where we're at. Are we getting closer? Do we need, and it always changes. It's so fluid, and yeah.
Can I ask, are those goals just purely design related? Are they like financially related? Like how, I think so often as business owners we go, oh, well, we want to have this goal, or we want to, I don't know, have 3 projects published or something. And it's like, well, actually, how do you make that happen financially or resource-wise and all of that kind of stuff? Like, do you set goals across multiple parts of your business?
Yeah, we do. When we very first started the business, I mean, obviously no one knew who Resident Studio was then. So it was about, this is where we would like to be published within the next year. This is where we would love to be published within the next 5 years. I mean, everyone knows the goal is Vogue one day. That's what we're all aiming for. But it's sort of like, so just having the publications, financial goals. We have goals within like what sort of projects we want to take on as well. So dream projects that we would like to take on is a really good one, and I think it's a good way to start manifesting that too. So the more you say it and the more you kind of I think the more you allow room for those things, it starts to happen.
Eliza, how about you?
I usually do my reflection process kind of over the Christmas holiday break. But I have been reflecting a little bit recently on the past year, and I definitely think something that I could do better for next year is just really like planning the project pipeline a lot better. So I found that this year especially there's been like an influx of projects, and then there'll be nothing for a month, and then there'll be more. So I think just not saying yes to everything straight away or staging out those initial consultations and staggering things a bit more was definitely something I learnt this year that I'll be implementing next year so that it's not feast or famine all year.
Now, I'll come back to you girls on this one because I missed it, but what's a win for this year?
I think just having a lot more projects finished. So I went full-time in my business about 3 years ago. So I'm now only just getting to the stage where like those new builds are being finished or those bigger projects are being finished so I can photograph things, and just seeing things come to life has been very exciting.
And Tara and Laure, what's your big win for 2024?
Well, the Currumbin project that we finished, we've been working on for over 2 years, 3 and a half. 3.5. Okay, there you go. That's why you're managing that. We finished install, and we just did all the photography and videography for it. So, and that project really represents our business and the style that we'd like to move forward with. So that's been a big win, I think.
It was a dream project that we wanted, and we're super excited to be able to finally show that to everyone because, it's all well and good to start designing it, but then to actually see it come to life is another thing. So
I'm going to stay with you girls for a little bit. So you girls are a design partnership, and I have to say I'm a little bit fascinated by partnerships. On this week's episode of the podcast, for anyone who hasn't listened to it, it's with Leah and Fliss from Bone Made, and they're sister-in-laws. And they have what almost sounds like the perfect partnership. One is very much based on the concept side. The other is very much on the documentation side. They've both had children throughout their times of having the studio, so they've had the ability to have maternity leave, and it was just really interesting hearing how they've started the business and together they've grown it. Tell me a little bit about how you guys started, and how does your design partnership work?
Well, we started 3.5 years ago, the business. We actually used to work together beforehand, and I think we worked together in a different capacity. We weren't working solely together on projects, but worked in the same company. But we just found that when you get to know Laure and I, we are like chalk and cheese. We're two completely different people when it comes to pretty much everything except for design, which works really well, because it means that we balance each other out and we can see things from a different lens. I think if we had two of the same of me or two of the same of Laure, like it just wouldn't work. And then I think the way you've got to see it is that if you're putting together a business together, it's kind of like your baby and this is a marriage. So it's pretty much that everything you do is in the best interest of that business. You put your personal things aside. Everything you do and every decision you make is for that business, and you've just got to be able to compromise and do everything you can to make sure that baby is well nurtured.
Yeah, and I mean, we also have different, I think you're going to ask a question on it, but we have different parts of the business that we look after, which helps for us to have ownership over parts of the business, but also we're intertwined with everything. But like Tara said, you know, it is a marriage and you do have to come together for the best interests of your business at the end of the day, and that's the, you know, we get to do the designs that we love, so that's the ultimate.
So do you have like a clear divine? Like, does one of you do concept, one of you do documentation?
Well, I work on operations, so
Yep.
I'll do logistics and, you know, warehousing and things like that. And then Tara's more marketing, socials, and PR. And then we work across all projects. We work across operations together and marketing together to make sure that it's the ultimate look for our business.
Yeah.
And it represents us, but yeah, we do have ownership on some parts because we can't be together doing, you know, QCing at the warehouse,
Yeah.
one like so, yeah. And then we work on projects individually, so.
Well, I was, like with the projects, I think the way that it works really well is because Laura and I have such different personalities. When we meet with a new client, we just see who they gravitate towards. I'm very blunt, I'm very black and white, and some clients love that. Some clients want someone who's going to nurture them a little bit more. So that's where Laura comes in. She's a lot softer than I am, and that's where then that person takes the lead. So depending on who the client gravitates towards, that person takes the lead, and I think it's a really good way to, I guess, have a business because you know you're not going to lose out because the client doesn't match with your personality because you've got the best of both personalities as well. But then we're across all projects together, but then that person will take the lead and be the client comms with that person, with the client.
Yeah, right. And have you had, I mean, like all businesses, I imagine you've had teething problems. You're still really quite a baby business, really. Has there been, like, how have you managed that friction? Like, if you own the business by yourself, you just kind of, you know, shout into the abyss about the crazy client. But how do you manage that friction as a business owner? Because as a duo, because as you've said, it's a marriage and you've got a baby. How do you divorce? Like, does that come up?
We're kind of stuck together for life. That's what we decided when we signed the papers. But I think it's just communication is the biggest thing, and you have to, again, like Laura and I have such different ways of communicating. We're so different, but you just have to come to a medium ground, and if there's an issue, you talk about it, and you have to be open and honest, and you just have to come to resolution. But there's no other way. I think the first 6 months were probably the hardest because we're just trying to navigate the dynamic and understand how it's actually going to be working together so closely. But I think once you get past that and understand then how we communicate, like, I think that really helped, and it was just being open and honest and upfront with each other.
Like, there's a good cop, bad cop usually in
Bad
every
cop.
situation.
I'll
So if
take
I
it.
need someone that's a bit, you know, you're a bit more assertive, so if you need to get on the phone, then you do, you know, but there's a balance. It's like the yin and the yang. I haven't had to do that with you. No, but not you. But yeah, it is the yin and the yang between us. So yeah.
Okay. Sara, I've got a question for you. So I first you caught my attention because, so as we've discussed, you're a baby designer, just getting out there. And one of the things that I constantly get asked by people who are just starting out is like, I don't have a portfolio. I don't have projects that I've got photographed. Like, how do I get my first clients? How do I show my work? And it's a real challenge. And, you know, there's only so many, like, this is a concept or this is a rough sketch or something. There's only times you can show that. But one of the things that really caught my attention is how you do these magical reels of different kind of collages of products in a room, and it's all like it's kind of this whimsical take on a concept that is just automatically you can see, I know exactly what that room would look like if it was real. And I just think it's such an interesting way to get across what you do as a designer and what your style is without any finished products or projects. And the really interesting thing is I've seen they've been picked up by the artist who you have, or the vase, like the ceramicist, or whoever it is, so then it's getting amplified. And I know like a design school has picked it up and amplified it as well. How did you think to do that? Is it something you just stumbled across and like, well, that one worked, I'll do it again? But I'm really fascinated by it because I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I don't know about anyone else in the room, but it is a tool that we need to use to our advantage. So yeah, talk me through a little bit about how you kind of came about to do it that way.
So I think initially my design style is generally I try and use a little bit more colour and pattern in my designs, and I was sort of finding that just a general like simple mood board that we were sort of taught at design school just wasn't really enough. Like the white background and the everything sort of inside that, it just wasn't really conveying exactly the message that I wanted to get across. And like you said, without having any finished projects, I just wanted to find a way for people, to not just pay attention, but really get my design style across. So I did get a little bit lucky, I think. I was playing around in Canva and they weren't all good at the start, but gradually they sort of got a little bit better. And I think one of them, Julia Green from Greenhouse Interiors, posted on their Instagram page, and I was like, wow, like my basically interior design idol has said it was one of the best reels she's seen in ages. So I thought I'll continue to and keep on going. So it kind of stemmed from that. I think when you go into a room, everyone knows, like you've experienced it, not just visually. There's so much more to a well-designed space. So I just wanted to try and create a little bit more of an experience that way for any potential clients that might, be interested in my services.
Yeah, look, I think it's very, very clever. And if anyone hasn't checked out Sara's, it's Yuzu Interiors, and it's really a great way to convey, as you said, like there's a bit of movement to it. It works so well with your style. Like it's colour, it's whimsy, it's fun, but it's just very clever. So check it out. Okay, so we talked about the positive and the wins that you've had for 2024. I want to find out what you've learnt from something that's gone really wrong. Now, I've been in the industry for 15 years and, man, I've seen some real disasters. And I've learnt some big lessons from them. And I'm a better designer and a better business owner and person because of it. Eliza, what is the thing that you really... Now, you can share what went wrong, or you can just tell us the lesson.
I wish I had something scandalous, but I don't. I'm thankful that I have had a lot of really good clients, but I have had a couple of times where communication up front from me has been a big lesson that I've learnt. So just really communicating the service and what they get and what's included and managing their expectations up front. That would probably be my biggest lesson. And mainly I find it's funny, it's almost those lower scale services that I find tend to go the worst. So I have, like, obviously the full service design, the larger scale jobs, but then I also offer just a one-off design consultation service. It's just like a 2-hour in-home, nice little cash injection for me, but it's not always the best. Well, I found at the beginning when I started to offer that service. Now it's fine. I've really refined what I communicate to them. Because in the beginning, they were kind of expecting a lot more from that service. They were expecting a full home design, full furniture, homeware selections, when it is just that advice, that consult. So then, I had a few clients that got a bit antsy with me after, so that wasn't fun. So then I've made sure it's been a good lesson for me, so I really communicate that up front, manage their expectations, what they're receiving. So, yeah.
Tara and Laure, what's your big lesson?
Well, I made a big mistake. Yes, I own it. I've said it before to Laura. I was like, I own it. It's fine. No, when we first started the business, it was the first year in, I ordered a fabric for curtains, and it was a GP&J Baker embroidered fabric for curtains throughout a house. It was very expensive, and I got one number of the code wrong, and somehow we both overlooked it, so I'm dragging Laura down with me. And then just so happened that day I went in and they're like, oh, your sample came in and it's supposed to be blue and white, it was red and white. And they had already sent it from the UK. So that was a big lesson I called the supplier right away, and I think that was where we learnt as well how much supplier relationships mean, because it's the ones that are willing to help out. Like, it's not their fault, and they know it's not their fault, but if they're willing to help you to try and come to a solution, like, at the end of the day, we're not saying to them, you know, we need you to find this right now. No, we know it's our mistake. What can we do? We just need a solution. And so from then on, anytime we ordered fabrics for curtains, even though we show the client the fabrics and have a photo of everything, even to the manufacturer, we send them the photo as well, just so that they know that the code is matching up. And if there's any issues, they'll say, hey, this looks like it's blue. Is it meant to be red or blue? So anyway, we were very lucky that they did take the fabric back. We had to send it back to the UK and then get it air freighted back, which cost us a hell of a lot less than it would have if they had cut the fabric already, because then we wouldn't have been able to return it at all. So anyway, good lesson. We now triple check everything over. But look, when you're working on projects as well, something like that, I think we had 55 suppliers of furniture and fabrics on that one project. So it was something was bound to go wrong. It happens, and you just learn from it. Yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, one of my learnings was involving a fabric and the wrong colour. Mine was, we were working on very, very tight time frames of bringing some custom furniture out of China. And I had gone over to quality control them, and they rolled out the fabric. And this whole scheme, this whole apartment that we were doing had a purple vibe. They rolled out the fabric and it was red. And I was like...
It's always red, isn't it?
It is, it's red. And I was
Angry.
like, are you sure that's the right... Is that our fabric? Like, yeah, it's your fabric. Flew in from Italy yesterday. I was like, that's meant to be purple. And yeah, I've spent a lot of time trying to call our supplier in Sydney, and it was purely based on the relationship that we had with them, that within a very short period of time we had purple fabric in some really back of nowhere place in China. FedEx don't go there often. So, yeah, fabric, it can really get you undone. But there was lots of systems that came from that, and funnily enough, it was about a wrong code number. So, yeah, I do think the fabric swatch is a big lesson that you can take on board. One of the questions that I had for Eliza, this is a bit without any notice, but it's something that Shane and I were talking about before. So when Shane suggested you were on the panel, I was like, great idea. I have followed her for ages on Instagram, and I've always been really but taken by what I've perceived is your very savvy business sense. Now, you have multiple income streams. You have your design business, you have some styling that you do, you have a course that you offer, and I think that's I know a lot of designers think about, we've got to have multiple income streams, how do we do it kind of thing. I'd love to kind of dive a little bit into that with you and understand, is it something that was by design? Did you know that you needed to do that? And how do you manage, they're quite different audiences that you're talking to. How do you manage that?
Yes, so it was definitely intentional. I'm not a risk taker inherently. So when I first started my business, it was a side hustle for many years, and then I finally went full-time. But before I went full-time, I really wanted to have like some regular income set up before going full-time. So I'm the stylist at the Homemaker Centre in the Valley, so that I do regular styling sessions there, a couple a week. I've been doing that for like 5 years now, so that's just some nice like regular income, and I really enjoy it as well. And then having some contracts in place with builders as well, so doing some new home selections, again, for that kind of regular income. And then, so earlier this year, I started a course. So it's an interior decorating and design course for the person that loves designing, loves decorating, and they don't necessarily want to hire an interior designer. So it is a very different audience to who I'm attracting, like who my ideal client is. So I have actually struggled a little bit with the marketing side of that. So originally I went like full ball marketing the course. I've had quite a few people go through it and it's been quite successful, but I've kind of leaned away from talking about it so much on my Instagram or anywhere, because I want to attract that full service design client. Like that's my main bread and butter still. So now I've looked into more like advertising and working with an ad agency, so that I'm just targeting specifically that client. So that's kind of separate to my Instagram, separate to other marketing channels, because it is hard to advertise when you've got two different audiences that you need to speak to. It has been challenging.
It's been kind of just observing as you do on Instagram. And I think it's a challenge that a lot of people, I think they kind of go, I need to have, like it'd be great to have that kind of passive income coming in. It's a bit of a buzzword, but it is so much harder than people think it is, because what do you want to be your main income? Is it the passive income from the course, or is it your ideal client? And how do you juggle that? So it's really interesting. Okay, I'm going to bring Shane in for this next question. So, Shane, been in the industry forever. What, it's come up quite often already this evening about the strength of relationships and how that really helps your business and how you grow your business. But so often I think sometimes as designers we don't necessarily value the relationship with our suppliers as much as we do. I think once we have a problem, we value it, but I don't think we always invest in it as much as we should, just on the day-to-day. So from the supplier side, tell me a little bit about what we should be doing.
Okay, where do I start? With designers. I guess we spoke this afternoon about this. There was two things I was going to bring up. One was education, and the other one was communication. So communication, I think it's just really important in that relationship with the supplier and the designer is really clear. And I think it's us understanding your business and you understanding our business, how we work, what we offer, and you kind of transferring that information to your clients, really. For instance, we have clients who send their clients in here open slather. Really, they're coming in here, and it's really hard to kind of serve them because you don't know what they want. They don't know what they want.
Yeah, we were talking about how it's awesome if you can utilise a showroom like Satara and a relationship that they would have. But if you're sending a designer in right at the beginning of the process, it's just going to muddy the waters and it's going to be a waste of time for everyone. But if they're coming in at the right point in the process, which is pretty much the moment before they decide, yep, that's the chair, we're going with it, then it's magic when it works.
I think it's coming to that scheduling the schedule they come in with. If I see someone walk in here with a schedule, I am so excited because I'm like, right, they know exactly what they're here for. The other thing is education. So I think from a supplier point, what we need to do for the designers and for our clients is educate you guys on what our product offers, what do we do. Do you know we do 9 different colours on a timber chair? Probably not. Probably half of you don't know that. So I think it's really important to find the time to invest in your suppliers, make time to go and see suppliers, sit down with them, talk about your products, how do you guys work, what are your lead times, what are your expectations what do you offer? What can you kind of do to help our business? So I think that's really important from us, from supplier point of view, giving your clients expectations about lead times. If you've got a rush client and you need things done in 2 weeks, we can do it. But if you want your dream job that you guys have just done, you need 3.5 years. But it's really important because your client comes in here and is like, oh, I really love that table. Yeah, that's 16 weeks away. Oh, no, I really want that tomorrow. I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So I think having the expectations given to the client first, and then they have the expectations like, okay, we know, we want the dream outcome, we'll wait for it. So I think, communication, education is really, really important for us. I think at any really supplier, so...
Awesome. Okay, staying with you. What excites you about our industry at the moment?
I think what excites me is, seeing there's such a diverse range of designers out there. Like when I picked, well, I shouldn't say picked, but when I chose the panel, I really kind of wanted someone who was, young and fresh. And then I really wanted a duo, and you girls were the first one I thought about. Just from that, young, I've known you for quite a long time. Hey, young and fresh. Well, I haven't said young and fresh yet, Tara. But I think that, and then obviously Donna, I'm sorry, so I haven't, I don't know. But having Donna from a large firm, large staff turnover, she has multi kind of, areas in her business. I think that excites me. Like designers that come in, I think Eliza, your business model is amazing. I think your use of colour and boldness, I think that excites the industry because, young ones, we need to, and I'm not sounding really old here, am I? But it's, that's kind of, and seeing passion, it's a great industry. We work in a really, really good industry. It's not often you can go and see showrooms and just drink champagne and eat food and see beautiful furniture and then, we get to put it all together. So, yeah.
Eliza, what about you?
Definitely colour and a bit more depth, I think, to interior design. It's been very subdued and lots of neutrals and beiges for the past couple of years since COVID, which is beautiful and it does suit Queensland and our lifestyle up here, but I think just having a bit more fun and playfulness and a bit more of that contrast is what I'm excited to see.
Laure, how about you?
Do I think beige is a colour? I mean, it's a shade.
I think beige is a colour.
For us, we were excited about different marble, different stone, colour. We've got a project that we're working on with a red travertine. So different finishes, people kind of pushing the boundary a little bit now. And we love to use metal, particularly brass and, warmer finishes. So things like handles are changing. There's marble details. They're being more, more organic and, really beautiful little features. And, we kind of are a bit excited about that. But
yeah, I think we, especially in Queensland, we saw Hamptons for quite a few years. And it's great. Like, we've done a Hamptons house as well, and we love it. But it's just, like, the last few projects that we've done, each one has been so different. And that's what we're loving is, like, super brave. Like, this one that we were just talking about in Currumbin, like, you got oranges and aubergines and blacks. Like, we're starting to get a bit more ahead with design because the reality is Queensland has always been behind. But now we are starting to, like, the houses that we're doing are more Melbourne-esque and Sydney, and it's just exciting to see that people are being more brave and they're saying yes to things.
Sara, how about you? What excites you?
I was also going to say colour, but as well as sort of, pushing the boundaries and with design, I think a lot of people are starting to wanting to put their own personality in their designs of their homes and decoration as well, which is really exciting, not just necessarily going out and copying what other people have done, but really putting, what's unique and special for them into their homes, which really excites me. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Okay, it's your turn now. Who has a question? Don't be shy. Come on. Okay.
Douglas?
Hi. Lovely panel. I think it's been so illuminating listening to everyone's different experiences. I'm just in awe, honestly. The type of design sort of being pushed. I'm so lucky to be here amongst everyone. Now, I've just had a project recently wrap up, and I think towards the end, there were some not so favorable things that happened, and not to say that it was with design, but you know how a project will involve different people, different consultants. There'll be engineering, there'll be BAA, and obviously the builder. Now, when it came to, obviously the furniture was amazing, beautiful, but we sort of rely on photography because then that builds our portfolio, whether you're working for yourself, whether you're working for a company and making your name there. Now, my question is, has this ever happened in any of the projects that you've sort of dealt with where by the end, the relationship between the client and maybe the builder or one of the consultants within that process was a bit strained, which then sort of affected their mood? And, you know, you're trying to sort of ask, hey, can we get photography in here? And they're like, I just want to breathe. I just want to be left alone. And you're like, I need to show what beautiful things we've done here. But yeah, I just wanted to know if you've had this experience in your past projects, something that almost was a passion project to an extent that you sort of had to mitigate or resolve towards the end to sort of keep that relationship.
I haven't, so the girls can say if they have, but I thought maybe even like when you're starting the project, maybe having in the contract that it is to get photographed so that at the end they're kind of held to it because they've signed a contract. I know that that's something a lot of designers do, so that would just be my suggestion because I haven't really had that experience, but have you guys had anything?
No, we haven't had that. I mean, we've had clients tired at the end of projects. The only way that I can figure out to kind of work around that is to do a lot of behind the scenes things. You know, it is great to have professional photography to really showcase what a project will look like, but if you can't do that, take as many photos, as many videos as you can. Even on install day, if you can factor in one more day after the install day and have that in the contract, like Eliza said, then maybe you could do some of your own photography if the client is open to it. But yeah, it's a hard one to manage because I think everyone at the end is a bit tired and they want their space, like you said. But I don't know, behind the scenes stuff might get you out of that if you can.
I think also, like, sometimes when, like you said, like, they do get tired at the end of it, get them excited about it again. It's like, say to them, and we say, look, we really want to photograph this. We think we could get it published. Like, I think, and we're not promising them anything. We're just saying, look, do you mind if we send it out to some publications? Half the time they love that. And even our clients that are very private, and we have had to have things where, like, kind of sign things that we can't say who they are, things like that. But it's just about, like, even they get excited about it because they're like, well, we want to, yeah, cool, we want to show our friends. This is our house in a magazine. So I think just get them excited about it again and maybe just say, look, I don't know, if you can shout them maybe a lunch or something. Look, can I send you to lunch while I photograph this today? Like, just something that gets them excited.
Yeah, I think the other thing that, just picking up on something you said, and I think this is really important. So, and I agree, I think photography is part of, like, in the contract. You can't kind of just plop it at the end and go, oh, by the way, can I photograph it? Like, it's got to be in your process from the start. It's in your contracts. It's like you're talking about it from the very start of the project. I think the other thing that you mentioned was that it was a passion project. So it was for a friend or someone, and I think the thing with those, and we've all done them, especially when we're starting out, we'll take anything. I think one of the best bits of advice that I have heard and I have given is that it doesn't matter if they're a friend, a stranger, they're all clients, and you treat them the same and you put them through the same process. And so that process should involve a discussion around photography. And so I think that's really important because that's then setting the expectation. I think as well, when relationships go sour, and whether it's the relationship with you that's gone sour or you're just kind of a bystander when something else has gone wrong, I think one of the best things you can do is kind of maybe give them a bit of time and lower your expectations about what you're going to get out of the project in terms of photography. I think someone that I've had on the podcast through a whole heap of circumstances, she had about 10 photos that she recycled for about 2 years because she had a lot of really big projects that were in construction, and so she didn't have this pipeline of new work that was coming through. And it's amazing what you can do with 10 photos and really tight crops and all that kind of stuff. So I think one of the things is about lowering your expectations about what you're going to get out of the project in terms of photography. And yeah, as the girls have said, the behind the scenes, and then talking about your process to how you got there and your selections thing. I think there's a lot that you can do to showcase your skill and your talent and your style that doesn't rely on finished project photography, because I think the reality is for most designers starting out, it takes a really long time to get a portfolio of work that is all of the fancy photography. It takes a really long time. And I think as an industry, we struggle with that. I think the expectation is that from day one, you're going to have a portfolio that looks like a Vogue shoot every time, and it's just not. It's really not. So I think that's something as an industry we need to kind of be a bit more realistic about. Who's got another question?
I wanted to ask you guys, what was your first step in scaling your business, and how did you know that was the right time to do it? Whether that be staff, an office, so forth.
I love this question.
We haven't really got an office. We work remotely, so that works for us at the moment. With regards to scaling, we've had to scale pretty quickly with things like warehousing. It's very project dependent, so it's really just planning and understanding what's coming in. If you can delay furniture till more towards the installation date and things like that, it's just a balance. But we kind of just try to forecast as much as possible and make sure that we can kind of have it all ready to go. But it's delicate with regards to that kind of side. But scaling,
yeah, I think it's hard for us too. I think we're kind of still learning along the way. Yeah. And like Laure said, it is, we are still working remotely, and I think the first big step for us was warehousing. But that's where we kind of found something where it was a month-to-month warehousing system, so you're not kind of locking yourself in, which we found worked for us. I think we started the business just out of COVID and times were very uncertain, so we didn't want to lock ourselves into anything. So we just had to be a bit more flexible, but I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Have you guys got a team, or is it just you two?
Just us two, still. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think also thinking about what scaling looks like to you and your business, because at the start of the year, I really set myself a goal. I wanted to have my own physical studio, because at the moment I just have an office at home. But then as the year went on, I kind of reflected on if that was something that I actually wanted to do, whereas I actually like being at home and being with my animals and just, doing a load of washing during the day. It just makes it easier for me. So I realised that that's kind of not the next step for me. So maybe the next step for me might be like hiring a virtual assistant or outsourcing something else, or that would be my advice.
So my 2 cents on this. You have to be really, really clear on what success looks like for you, because I can guarantee you are going to be more profitable as a solo designer, or maybe like 1 or 2, versus someone who has a team of 10 or 15 or 20. They will be taking home less pay than what you will be. Having a team, having a big fancy office looks good. It's really expensive. So I think you have to be super, super clear on what success means for you and be really realistic. I think so often we're like, we want an office with our name on the door. That's going to be cool. It's vanity. Sorry, it's vanity. And so I think you have to be clear on what success looks like for you and think about what you want your business to be like in 5, 10, 15 years. And a physical office, a big team, does not mean that you can't have multi-million-dollar projects and have them photographed in Vogue. That is really very achievable for a solo designer with the right outsourcing. So I think when it comes to scaling and knowing where you want to go, I think so often you need to check yourself and go, is it because I want an office with my name on the door? Or what does success really mean for me? And I think that's really, really important because it's a really expensive lesson to learn if you do it wrong. So yeah, I think when it comes to scaling, you have to be super clear about why you're doing it. But I think you also need to disconnect the projects I'm going to win and the projects I'm going to get with how big my studio is in terms of team members. Sorry, I'm just going to keep talking. The other thing that I think you need to think about, and this comes up quite a lot, is so often people go, my first hire is going to be a junior. No offence to any juniors in the room, but a junior is really expensive time-wise. So you might take on a junior and you end up spending so much time mentoring them and recorrecting their work, and they need so much more direction. And that is wonderful if you have the time and the patience and it sits within your business to do that. But so often that what you save in wage doesn't equate to a time saving, and then you end up kind of back where you started. And the number of designers who I've spoken to who have taken a junior on as their first hire, and 12 months in they're like, this is not working, and they have to reassess. So I think that's a big thing as well. Okay, next question.
Hi there. We operate a real estate business. We buy property for people, and we also have a styling and furnishing solution for them as well. And so often we see people buying properties $8-10 million, and they'll they'll jump up in increments of 500,000 when you're doing the deal. And then when it comes to the furniture, they scrimp and save, and they give you this minuscule budget to furnish it, and they they want the Aston Martin at the Mazda RX-7 price. How do you manage clients' expectations around budget, and how do you get them to see value in interiors and paying for quality furniture?
Well, we go to them with the budget that we think. We give them sort of a breakdown of what it's going to cost, and if they look at that and they're like, if they come to us with a realistic budget and say, look, this is what we want to work within, then we'll do our best. Or we say, look, that's fine, but we might cut out a room then. And then if they've got an unrealistic budget, then we just don't take on the job. I think sometimes it's easier to say no than to try and do that, because it ends up being the ones, to be honest, that are going to spend the less with a beautiful home that end up having more issues because they do have unrealistic expectations. And I think you just have to be really upfront and honest. And we, say the reason you're paying for this kind of furniture is the quality of it. And if you're spending that much on a house, then you need to put the furniture in there to reflect that. Otherwise, what's the point? It's not, you're living in the interior, so.
And I think a lot of clients that I've spoken to don't really understand the cost of furniture. And when you put an itemised breakdown, so we itemise it as part of our fee proposal, every piece in every room, so they see how much it is, and when they do their own investigation, they usually come back and understand a little bit more. But getting clear about where the look and the feel is placed. Is it entry level? Is it high end? a $20,000 modular Jardin sofa is beautiful, but is it what kind of budget does the client have? So I think being really clear with that from the outset, so when they do sign off, they sign off a budget that we put together, and that's kind of where we've positioned ourselves as.
I was just going to say, if you do get to that stage, but then you still find that you do want to work with them, maybe the project does sound good, but you want to work within their budget. Sometimes it's about mainly just maybe doing the living room, the dining room, the main bedroom, and that's it, and focusing on those areas. And then also I always try to tell the clients it's worth investing in the furniture pieces, so those bigger items like the sofas, the coffee tables, dining tables, and maybe we go a bit lower price point for all the decorative items and the cushions and things like that. Because I do find that when you explain it bit by bit, it can kind of convince them a bit more as a whole. So.
Okay, next question. I'm going to stand over here.
Just on that and the consultancy fee and the margins and all of the beautiful things that come with our work, are you recommending to have one set margin for each job, or are you a lot of websites actually, a lot of interiors have, okay, when you work with me you get this, and then other interiors have no mention of whatsoever. So what's your recommendation in startup business or in areas of grey? Where are you sitting with consultant fee design? Is it a margin or is it a design fee? Or is it both?
Always a design fee, I think, and then margin for products is kind of extra on top. Because I feel like they need to pay you for your work and your hours, and that's at least a set fee, and that's what you know that you're going to get. And then you can be a bit more lenient with the different margins on furniture, kind of depending on the job or the supplier or things like that. There's a lot more variables when it comes to that, whereas a design fee, it's just your hours and it's a bit easier to explain.
I mean, with what we do, we charge design fees for our time. So putting together presentations, putting together inventory, anything to do with that, we'll charge for our time because we've put it together. And then with furniture, we do charge a margin on top. So we use wholesalers, but then if we go to retailers, we'll charge a 10% handling fee for, warehousing, QC, anything like that. So we do charge... design fees as well as margins on top of furniture. Yeah.
Do you disclose that margin at any point?
We don't.
I've been asked to in a few jobs and it's made me feel very uncomfortable.
The margin on top of furniture? Yeah. We have in our proposal that for anything retail, recommended retail, that we'll charge a 10 to 15% handling fee on top. Which we do disclose at the time of signing, and then we won't ever disclose any kind of margins for wholesale or anything like that. It's only if the product we have to purchase is retail, like Pottery Barn or West Elm, for instance, and then we charge on top for our time.
And also with that, I think it's pretty straight. I think of it if you're going to go buy, say, a Zimmermann dress, you're not going to go ask them how much margin they're putting on that either. So I think it's just being pretty upfront to them and saying, look, it's just our time. Each piece is so different too. You might get 50% from one supplier, you might get 10% from one supplier. So you kind of got to balance it out in there. But I think that's all back of house. I don't think they need to see any of that. I think they've got their retail price. We're very upfront. We say, you'll see it on the website. It's going to be cheaper than what you're going to see it through us, but that's our time. So you can go and buy it directly if you want, but we're not going to get involved with that then, because that's all the logistics side of it that we're handling for you.
I think one of the ways that is really helpful to think about fees, and obviously how much we charge is a big, big topic. I think what we do is, if you think about the life of a project, what you're doing during concept development is very different to making sure that QC the pieces of furniture. And so having different fee structures for the different type of work we do makes total sense. And really, what it all comes down to is clear communication. So, sorry, I'm going to move. I always think that thinking about it, like if you've got your design fee, that's a very fixed fee because you can control how much time you spend on it and how much you kind of take to do it. And if you want to daydream and take 5 days, great, but it's, that's your time. Where things like site or design oversight, so when a project's in construction, there's no way you're going to know at the start of a project how many hours you're going to need to spend on site to make sure that your design is being built the way that it should be built. So that you should either be charging like an hourly rate that's invoiced fortnightly, that's very clearly put into your fee proposal at the start, or you have like a monthly retainer for a big project. So maybe something like what you girls work on, having a monthly retainer. One, it's great for your cash flow because you know that money's going to be coming in every month, but also it's very clear and upfront. And I think to talk about the percentage, like I think there's a bit of change in terminology. So we shouldn't be saying trade discount. It's our trade price. And it's because we're a member of the trade that we get access to this trade price. Now, I think being transparent with the client about the fact that we are receiving a trade price, but I am putting a margin on that because, as the girls said, it's my time. So when it comes to furniture selection, I actually think you have a fixed fee portion of, pulling together all the pieces, putting together the concept. You then get to a point in the road, well, if the client doesn't want to pay any more from that, they can go and get it all themselves. And they're going to, after a while, realise, well, that's a big headache. I really wish I'd just paid her to do it. And so having the percentage on it, it just makes sense. But I think it all just comes back to being really clear in your contracts that that is how you work. And I think you kind of have to have confidence in it that that's how you work, it's your process, that's how it happens kind of thing. So yeah, I think clear communication from the very start is the best way for that to run. So yeah. Okay. We've got two more. Oh, okay.
Love to know a little bit more about your install. Like, is that a part of your upfront service? Or is that just a part of, like, because you're doing the handling? All the install days just happen because you've got the big, install, and that's just a part of acquiring all the furniture and the last bit of the process. Is that, yeah?
Well, I guess with our installs, how we work, which I should have mentioned before too, we actually have it in our contract at the start to say that the client needs to go away for the day. So it's kind of like we get access from a certain time. We don't want anyone in the house. So the reason why we get everything sent to our warehouse is to avoid any issues on site with so many trucks showing up and then someone's not on time, and then you don't have the rug before you have the sofa. So that's why we get everything and then we control that install ourselves. And then also not having the client there makes it a lot easier because the thing is, when every single piece starts coming out, they will start looking at everything, they'll start nitpicking, or they'll see one side table and be like, ugh, I don't know about this. But when they see it all come together, that's the beauty of what we do. Like, we are visual people. We know what it's going to look like. But if they see little bits and pieces, they don't know that. So, yeah, we let them go out for the day and then we have a big install, and it's 100% part of every project. We don't do any sort of projects where we have a few things go to them. It's always one big install at the end of the project. And that's why we say it's usually like a 5 or 6 months out that we'll work on a project, so we've got enough time to make sure everything's going to be there.
So does your fee cover, like, that's an upfront fee you disclose for you to do the install, or is that a part of your product markup?
Part of the margin. So that's part of the margin. And then we do have, once they've ordered everything, like a delivery and install fee, which covers our time for the day of the install, and also the delivery company and the logistics. But in terms of the margins that we put, that's also our time in the background to be liaising with all the suppliers. It's also the warehousing, because we do need to go out and tick things off. But it's incorporated into our...
I want to thank the panel. It's been such an insightful evening. I think everyone can agree we've all learnt something tonight. I hope you've taken something away from it and it's been a bit of a thought bubble for you. So thank you to Sara, Tara, Laure and Eliza. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next Design Dialogue.